For decades, India and the United Kingdom have been the closest strategic partners, but that relationship in just the last couple of weeks has seen perhaps a small hiccup on the issue of vaccines, but perhaps that's something that's been resolved. But at the moment, what we see is the United Kingdom deploy perhaps its largest fleet in a generation in the Asia-Pacific region. What is that all about? Where does India fit into this plan? Well, joining us now, a very special guest, the British Foreign Secretary, Elizabeth Truss. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being with us.
Great to be here.
I must ask you about the vaccines first off. What was the confusion all about?
Well, the confusion's now been sorted out, so those vaccines have been approved and we are enabling people to come with those vaccines. And I think it's a huge achievement of the Indian government that you now have got 1 billion people in India vaccinated. And it's through the work of both India and the UK developing the AstraZeneca vaccine, producing it here in India in the Serum Institute, and that's a fantastic success. I'm delighted that certificate's now been recognised.
Yes. Why did it take so much time?
Well, you know what these bureaucratic processes are like sometimes. They can take a bit of time, but I was determined that we would get it resolved, and we have got it resolved.
This warship has just come from the South China Seas. It's part of a new pivot, in a sense, of the United Kingdom to this region. Is that going to be sustained?
Absolutely. We are deploying the carrier strike group. We are travelling around, so the carrier strike group's been in South Korea, it's been in Japan, it's with India, and this is about building closer relationships with our key partners.
The presence of this warship is part of a pronounced pivot to the Asia-Pacific region. How does the UK intend to sustain this? This is a very large fleet. Would you be able to do this in the future as well, regularly?
Well, India is a key strategic partner of the United Kingdom, and what we're doing is building those closer defensive relationships with our friends and allies around the world. That's why we're here in Mumbai today. We're doing exercises with the Indian Navy, and we are doing closer work on a permanent basis. And of course, I hope we do deployments like this in the future.
Yeah. Now, would you like to see India as a part of AUKUS in the future?
Well, AUKUS is a particular arrangement which is really focused on nuclear-powered submarines and intelligence and defence cooperation. What we do want to do is build a closer defence and intelligence cooperation arrangement with India, and I was in Delhi yesterday talking with Minister Jai Shankar about precisely that, and who knows how things might develop. But I know, of course, that Australia is also a key ally of India, as is the United States. So we're certainly very keen to broaden our relationships, to deepen our relationships with key allies that we trust, and India is absolutely in that category.
The reason I ask is because on the one hand you have AUKUS, which, as you said, is based on a military equation, nuclear technology. And we have this relationship which has seen these exercises on for decades. So it is at one level an important military relationship. And the concern of AUKUS and of India is China and of the United Kingdom as well, and expansionism in the Asia-Pacific region. I'm just trying to understand how all of that fits together. Are we not replicating roles in terms of defining security against China?
Well, I think there are two things that are important. First of all, we need closer economic collaboration to challenge some of those unfair market practices, to make sure that free market democracies are defining the future of the economy, and that's why the trade deal with India is really important. But it's important that those economic relationships are backed up with security relationships, and I want the relationship with India to go deeper. And I see these relationships as complementary. We're working directly together with India. Australia is working with India, there's the Quad, there are organisations like NATO. But all of this closer working is focused on keeping the world safe and stable and secure. So I'm interested, for example, in interoperability, making it easier for our navies to work together, making it easier for our IT systems to work together. And I'm very keen to develop the relationship with India, but also with other like-minded allies like the United States, like Japan, like Australia.
Afghanistan is obviously a shared concern as well, and India faces a very direct challenge because terrorism emanates from Pakistan. Pakistan has had a role in Afghanistan, there's very little doubt about that. Do you believe that the withdrawal of the United States and ally nations, United Kingdom from Afghanistan, should have been done more carefully, perhaps more slowly?
Well, we are where we are, and my key priority now is to make sure that Afghanistan doesn't become a hotbed for terrorism and that it remains stable and doesn't turn into a humanitarian crisis. So I'm working with friends and allies, including India, to make sure that is the case in Afghanistan.
And what about Pakistan? Because India would have mentioned repeatedly, and perhaps in your meetings with Minister Jaishankar as well, terrorism emanating from Pakistan. Where does the United Kingdom stand on this key issue that affects India?
Well, we are very keen to make sure that we address issues of terrorism and we prevent Afghanistan becoming a terrorist hotbed.
And Pakistan as well, terrorism from Pakistan on Indian soil, is that a concern of the United Kingdom? We see terrorist attacks on Indian soil emanating from Pakistan quite frequently, including in the last few days in the state of Kashmir.
Well, I don't condone terrorism anywhere.
Would you like to add anything further to that, the position of the United Kingdom on terrorism in India coming from Pakistan?
As I said, I don't condone terrorism anywhere.
Okay. Just one final question. Just to go back to where we started, COVID is an international concern. It's a concern for India and the United Kingdom. Do you believe there needs to be a change in strategy in the United Kingdom in the months ahead, given that numbers have been surging?
Well, what we've seen in the United Kingdom is although cases have gone up, hospitalisations have remained much lower than they were last year because we've got the vaccine. So what we're now doing is we're making sure the over 50s are getting a booster of the vaccine. And that is the right approach. It is important we keep open our economy. It is important people are able to go to work and go about their lives. And thanks to the vaccine, of course, which India has been incredibly important. And I'm delighted that so much of the Indian-produced vaccine is helping developing countries as well. We need to use the fact that we've got the vaccine to help us get our lives back to normal.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for speaking to us. Thank you very much indeed. Well, there you have it. The British Foreign Secretary telling us a little bit about where the relationship between India and the United Kingdom is, the importance of the strategic dialogue that exists, but also important issues on vaccines and also perhaps answers on terrorism emanating from Pakistan. Were they clear enough?